Alrighty, here's a follow-up video on somebody asked me about the type of structure I have. Most of my stuff has been just straight up corners or flat pieces. The corners basically because I get all my styrofoam from these huge shipping containers, and I'll break them up and I'll have a natural corner that I could use. And it works out perfect because it's freestanding. I can draw everything out and cut it up, all that stuff. But occasionally I'll make one that's just a little different, and the one I've been working on is basically almost like a T. And basically it's two flat pieces put together. Normally I would just glue it, or normally it would have been just glued and probably maybe some screws or something. But what I do is I will take the width of this straight piece that I'm teeing into the bottom piece and draw the Sharpie lines, and then I would cut out almost like a dovetail, cut out a little portion of the other piece that'll allow the other piece to just slide right in there. And when you're working on this particular piece, you can slide it in and take it out as many times as you want as you're working. So when you're done, when you're finished with the final product, and before you prime it and everything, you can use your hot glue or your construction adhesive and stuff and glue it, and then you'll have a permanent tee. Or you can just leave it as is and use it in your display, and when you're done you can just take it apart. And this is how I usually ship stuff like this. So I will prime it so the person who buys it or whatever can actually finish painting or put it together themselves and paint it and have their display. But basically I just leave it separated for shipping purposes. It's way cheaper to ship like this than all bulky. But that's just the way I do. And again, I use my trusty oak trim here. So what I'll do is I will take the piece that needs to be cut, and I will draw out how the depth of it using this piece. Like again, this is a constant measuring device. Either the height and the depth are consistent. So you use this in everything, you'll have the same depth on all your work, so there's no question. Window trims, I use the same depth. It's going to be the width or the height of this stick. There's no other measuring device I use to get the width and the depth of my windows and doors and stuff. So anytime you buy something from me, it's going to have the same, unless you specifically ask. But again, width and depth, everything I do, this stick is a multi-purpose tool. Anyway, but again, I'll use the depth and cut it all out with my expandable razor knife, or some of those of you that have lucky enough to have a foam cutter that actually can cut that. Anyway, and basically I will cut it to fit, and it fits snugly. And this just takes a little practice, but there you go. You've got a nice little T building corner or whatever. So that changes it up from just a standard 90-degree corner that I do. And then once you get it primed up, you can go in and use a little acrylic caulking in there to cover that seam up, and then by the time you paint it and all that stuff, it's virtually invisible. So anyway, but that's the spiel today. So that's joining two pieces of flat styrofoam. And again, this is just the way I do it, and it works for me. But if you choose just to hot glue or just glue it straight down, but this just gives it a little bit of strength and stability, so you don't have to worry about that seam coming apart. And then if you want to, you can actually shoot some deck screws, some real thick deck screws up in there and countersink them. And I'll do is I'll soak my screws in the glue and then drill them in there, countersink them, and then just fill the hole. So, and that'll give you some extra rigidity. So anyway, but that's the spiel again today, and thank you for joining. And we'll hopefully see you next weekend. So thanks.